Welcome everyone to this special session. So today we're focusing on our conference, our workshop, our training. And I say all three of those things, though they mean different things, but I do find many people interchange them. But we do have an employee engagement workshop coming up in May 29th and 30th. It's a Thursday and a Friday, and you have an option to attend either days. But we also have a special guest that is coming in, Bob Keller, and he is the specialist on employee engagement, and it's going to be a very interesting things that you're going to learn, insights, tips, and all aspect on employee engagement that you could take back and introduce into your company, develop your employee engagement plan. But today, I have one of also our guests who will be at this workshop and on our panelists and my good friend. I call her Indy, but she is Dr. Indira Couch. And yeah, she's one of my good friend for years. But Indy is also one of the experts in the Caribbean internationally, actually, that also deals a lot with employee engagement, working with companies. And she presently is the CEO for Action Edge, which is a business and executive coaching business in Trinidad. So she has over 30 years of experience across the UK, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, even Guyana, and even into Barbados and many other countries. And so she is well-rounded, very equipped because she works with leaders in all these companies, large companies, and to help them to strategically think and execute plans for the company's growth. And we have asked her to come to Ghana also for this workshop so that she could share her experience and share tips of, her learning through all that she does that can also benefit us. So today we're giving you a little taste of what you're going to experience at this workshop coming up May 29th and 30th. So Indy, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today to just talk a little about this employee engagement. I know it's a problem, but it's a problem around the world, and not only in Guyana per se, or Trinidad, or the Caribbean, but it's something worldwide, and there's a lot of research on this here that is out there. But I know you have a lot to also offer based on your experience. So today we want to welcome you to this special edition of the employee engagement aspect of dealing with the engagement in companies. So welcome to our program today. And usually we do have a program we call East Meets West, where we introduce, and Indy was also a speaker on that program before, talking on leadership and what's not. So now she's talking about employee engagement, which is part of leadership too, leading yourself, leading your team. So welcome. And Indy, anything else you want to talk a little bit more about yourself, what you're doing over there? And what do we look forward to?
Okay, awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And it is such an honor and privilege to be here. And I'm really looking forward to uh, participating in the panel on employee engagement on Thursday, the 29th and Friday, the 30th in Guyana. I love Guyana. I love coming to Guyana. I joke with Chanti that I soon try to get a Guyanese passport. I love coming to Guyana so much. So I'm really looking forward to participating on the panel and sharing with everyone a little bit about my own personal experience around employee engagement and really about why it's so important. In fact, a lot of people say to me, well, what is the big deal about employee engagement? And why all of a sudden it became such an issue? And what I would say to you is that when I became a business coach, when I sold my business and decided to become a business coach, when I met with leaders about their business, the number one thing that they would speak about was people and people performance. And what would keep them up at night? They would worry about, do I have the right people in the right place on the bus? Am I competitively advantaged? Do I have the right skill sets in my organization now that's going to take me into the future and to the next 3 to 5 years of my business. And so when I came back to Trinidad and I met with a number of clients, that is what they were talking about. How do I create and sustain high performing agile teams? Because as we know, the world is changing faster than ever. In fact, the pace of change is the fastest it has ever been. And again, business owners and leaders are worried about their teams and people, and they didn't really know how to gauge, performance and how to gauge people performance because we could use KPIs and people have roles and KPIs and we hold them accountable to those and so. But what employee engagement really is about is that level of emotional commitment and that connection that an employee has with their organization, the organization's goals, and their work. And it reflects how motivated and invested employees are in contributing to the success of the organization or organizational success, as we say. And what is really important, and some of the things we are going to cover, so I don't want to give it all away, but one of the things we are going to cover is really what are the aspects of employee engagement that we need to pay attention to. And I like to use a boat visual. So I'm going to share that visual with you now, if that's okay, Shanti.
Yes, please do.
So I want to share this boat visual. And basically, I like to use this because I find like it's one of the ways that when I speak about engagement, people really get it. People really understand what I'm talking about. So can you see that boat visual, Shanti?
Yep, actively disengaged.
Right, exactly. So, this is what typically business owners and leaders would say to me. They would say, oh my gosh, when I show them this visual, and by the way, the concept of employee engagement is nothing from us. This is something that the Gallup has led the charge in the world, that organization Gallup has really done, and they continue to be the leaders in this space in terms of employee engagement, in terms of the research. They do quite a lot of research in this area. And one of the things that when you look at the Gallup metrics and you look at, because they do engagement scores, global engagement scores. So what Chanti has said before, employee engagement is not just Guyana, it's not just Trinidad and Tobago, it is a global, issue. And when we look at this boat visual, what we see is typically when you look at an organization, you will have these three buckets, these three groups of people, right? And what are we seeing when we look at this visual? We're seeing our actively disengaged. And usually at this point, I would ask you all to think about, and maybe Shanti, you could tell me when you see the active disengaged, what are the kind of demonstrated behaviors? How do people behave if they're actively disengaged?
I think it's kind of like a sabotaging mentality that, they spread their poison kind of to the entire team and, that kind of negative attitude, nothing can't work and, so they don't come to work on time too.
Right, right. So you see absenteeism,
Yep.
you see backbiting, you see people blaming, just have an excuse. As you say, they don't take feedback well. They're very negative about everything, about the organization, or they kind of try to get others along with them as well. And so as you could see from the visual, you have that anchor being thrown out there. And what is that doing? It's actually really slowing down the boat. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when we look at the disengaged, and people often say, by the way, when they look at this visual, they go, "Why do you have these groups here?" And the reason is because what Gallup is showing us is that there is quite a large percentage globally of disengagement. Yeah. So it's really, based on what the Gallup research is showing us. But what would you say about the disengaged folks, Shanti?
I think
How know,
they're the people who do the bare minimum. They might do some work or so, but they maybe at 4 o'clock or wherever is the time for closing off of work. That's it. You can't get anything more out of them. They don't go above and beyond. You know,
right,
they might also not so much like willing to do certain things per se, new strategies.
right,
They're just there pretty much to get their salary and
right.
that's it. Whether the company grow or get it better, they're just not interested.
Yeah. And in my experience, they could be they could be a fixed and growth mindset. They're not completely fixed.
Mhm.
And they could take fee. And sometimes what I've seen is some people become disengaged because they may have been overlooked for a role, or there's some issues that may have happened, and so they become disengaged. But they could be they could move to the green if they're given, the feedback and brought along, and worked with a development plan, or if we as an organization maybe were more transparent, let's say, in our promotion policy or whatever.
Yeah,
So we find that our disengaged, really are just like, this is my job. It's 8 to 4. This is exactly what I'm doing, right? And as you can see, they're just there on the boat, going along for the ride. And then, of course, we have a smaller group, which is our actively engaged, and we see them with their oars, rowing along, looking, for the opportunity, yeah, looking for things that could, happen, and very invested in the success of the business. Yeah. What else? What else would they demonstrate? What other behaviors would they demonstrate, Chanti?
I think actively engaged people, they're aligned. They want to go where the company is going, where the vision, mission. So they're actually rowing with, their other companions to go there who are actively engaged, that is. But these are people I see who go above and beyond. They're open for feedback. They ask for feedback because they want to grow. So they don't take things personally, and they come up with ideas to how to improve stuff. They're not waiting for people to tell them what to do or how to improve their department or the work that they're doing. So those are just some of the things I can see people who are actively engaged what they do. You could rely on them. They show up, they
Yeah,
go above and beyond that what you even ask them to do.
yeah,
Even if it's Sunday and you need something urgent, they're willing to come out because
yeah.
they understand, where the company is going and they want to go there too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so now the thing about it is, remember, as leaders and business owners, or wherever we sit, we are actually responsible for recruiting our team members, right? So we have recruited our team members. We've, brought them in our jobs. And one of the things I think that is sometimes a misconception with organizations is that they think that employee engagement is actually an HR function. Now, it is part of an HR function because, yes, the HR function is doing the surveys, collecting the data, understanding the metrics. But actually, it is our leaders and managers who are responsible for influencing engagement in our teams. So if we have the right people in the right place on the bus, and we know that these are the people that we want, as leaders and managers, the questions that I always ask me leaders and managers is to say, what am I doing or not doing that's creating the dysfunction in my team? That's leading to this disengagement. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing for us really is, and I want to share this slide with you as well, is that we are actually responsible for ensuring that our employees know what work needs to be done, to support and advocate for them when necessary, to explain how their work connects to organizational success, to hold them accountable for the results. Yeah. And that is what is a part of what we do, in terms of employee engagement. Now, there is a bit of a shift going on in the world, which is whilst we do have, it's important in terms of leadership, we also have a new shift around what we call teamship. And that teamship has to do with, for example, a good leader is someone who holds a team accountable, but a great leader is someone who is building their team to hold each other accountable. So the leader is not just holding the team members accountable, but is creating an environment in which the teams can have peer accountability. And the leader does not need to be the one doing all the work, but the leader has to start the change and create the change and allow for that space to happen and create that environment by having, giving the employees the right tools, helping them to understand what great looks like, how their work connects to organizational success. So I don't want to give it all away. We're going to have a lot of really great, robust, and I hope spirited debates and discussions, Shanti, because this is something that keeps us all up at night. And especially in Guyana, I know of course, with the recent huge shift in the growth model and, the workforce issue that many of us face. Not just, but specifically in Guyana, I know it's something that is an issue that, we need to address and we need to look at quite urgently. So really looking forward to that and looking forward to seeing you all, please. I know some of you have already started seeing pictures of us on billboards because I have some of my colleagues saying, "Oh, I saw you on a billboard in Guyana." And I'm like, "Yes, sign up for it and sign up for it now." Um, so please, we only have limited number of seats, and I know they're filling up very, very quickly. So don't lose your spot. It's what, 6 weeks to go, Shanti? 7 weeks to go?
I would think so. Yeah, this is the second week in April already, so far. But
Yeah,
yeah, but six. One,
yeah.
if you include this week here in three,
Book your
four,
space.
6. Yeah,
Yeah,
7 weeks.
7 weeks. Yes.
Few days.
Don't wait.
Like
Book.
that.
Yes.
So indeed, they don't wait until the last minute. Oh my gosh, I've had so many experience that, as leaders, we need to learn how to make decision faster. You know, whatever you need, get it and make a decision already. But it is important. And I think the key part, what happens though, indeed, is that many company thinks that, man, look, it's just a workshop. Let me send some junior people, right? And one of the things we want to happen is that there, some of the decision makers are in a room that will go back and develop an engagement plan like together and roll that plan out so that everyone can benefit. And many times a junior team member is not allowed. And I think this is where the disengagement also will come. Because when they're going to come up with a plan to pitch and you ignore them, or you put it on, we'll deal with this next 2 quarters down the line, you lose the momentum, you lose a team member because they don't feel that what they contributed was valuable to you. And
Yeah.
so it come back to the, let me put it down, supervisors, managers. They say people don't leave a company, they leave people. And so how do we help our teams to become engaged? And maybe even some of those disengaged people, how can we help them to become again engaged? Because they would have started off with some engagement before they get to be disengaged.
Yes. 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 That is true. And in fact, Shanti, I would say, as you know, I mean, in Guyana, there is a talent war there. And how do we, again, and the other thing I know we will share, we don't want to give it all away, we're going to share the costs of losing talent. And we want to retain the talent. And so, how do we, really take a look at building out a strategy to retain our talent because, there's the war out there on talent in Guyana. And that's going to be really important. And that's an important part of the conversation that we need to be had. And we need to, and I know the 2 days, and even for each day, people will get takeaways. They will get lots of really great opportunities to think about some strategies they can actually go away and start implementing into their businesses right away. So this is not just a talk shop. This is actionable strategies that, participants can come away with to understand a little bit more about some of the things they're doing or not doing and that they need to do to retain their top performers, to retain their actively engaged and to ensure that they actively engaged don't become disengaged or actively disengaged because we tend to overload them. Because we overload the actively engaged because they are the ones raising their hands and doing more.
Yeah, and they get burned out.
Mm-hmm. Really
Yeah.
important things to pay attention to.
There's a lot to think through on this here, and that's why it's important that your senior team especially are in the room, that they could understand maybe some of the things that might be happening, and how they could go back to start fixing pieces at a time, and that is through their plans, and we're here to support too. So anything the companies, the teams, and that are going to be in our room in May, that they can always reach out to us. They have questions or anything guidance they need. We're here to serve. And I do look forward. This topic is very close to my heart because that would employee engagement was part of my thesis for my doctoral degree, and it's on leadership and employee engagement. And so
I,
I wanted to see, because since then, during the whole studies and all of that, was this is something that is affecting every organization. Everybody's crying out. We have people who don't care. They come to work, and but we need to look at maybe from hiring, are we aligning people? There's so many things to think about here, and then how are we leading them? How are we giving feedback, as Indy said, to them, to help them to see where they could improve and how they could improve it, and work with them, mentoring them through it all. And, maybe some of them to those actively disengaged people that might need to let go, and you might be keeping them, they're poisoning your team going, or, making it a bigger pool going by. But all of those things will take courage from you
yes.
as a leader.
Yes, absolutely. And we need again to just to wrap up with what you're saying there, Shanti. We as leaders need to look at ourselves, have the courage to have those conversations with our teams, give them the feedback in a constructive way that helps them to understand what great looks like and who they need to become and what do they need to do and work with them, support them on building out performance plans and work plans to develop them. Now, you and I know, Shanti, because we've been down this route, is that you work with people, you coach people, you support them, you develop them. But there's the other thing, which is when you can't change the person, you may have to change the person. And it just may not be the right fit for the person in this particular role. And that person will find the right culture and will find the right fit, but perhaps it's just not the right fit for us, given where we need to go or where our businesses are going based on that alignment with our strategy.
So we're gonna close this segment here, but you're gonna get a lot more on May 29th or the 30th, whichever day you decided to come, and engage with the others in the room. You're going to realize, oh my, there are so many other people maybe struggling with the same thing like you. And you're gonna learn from them too, strategies that they're using and stuff that you can implement too. And or maybe you might be able to teach them some stuff too, in your group discussions and all of that, as we're gonna have. And so I am excited that we are bringing something like this together, to help our people, help our organizations, our companies, so that, it's something to add value to all of them to improve. So indeed, thank you so much for your time, and I am excited to see you again in Guyana. And looking forward to all the nuggets, and
Yeah, and Thursday the 29th, Friday the 30th. From what time, Shanti?
it's from 9 to 4,
9 to 4. Great. Lots and lots of
and
learning,
it's yes.
lots of sharing, networking, strategies,
Mm-hmm.
items. You're going to come away with a lot. So looking forward to seeing you all there.
So you can actually call us 21621 0440 and get more information about this conference, how you could register, how you could be a partner with it, and even get a discount if you have people over 5 persons or more from your company that'll be attending. We are giving you a 5% discount. So right now, reach out to us. Let us know how we can assist you with this here so your team could be in the room. It's going to be at the Royal International Hotel on Mandela Avenue. And
Right.
this again is May 29th and 30th. You have enough time to get your team into that room there. And
Great.
also call us on 621 0440 and let us know, how we can support you to make this happen. So again, Indy, thank you so much for your time, and we are going to see you in Guyana.
Thank you. Looking forward. Take care.